Hello, everyone. It's Tuesday, March 26th, 2024, 6:01 p.m. Norwalk Conservation Commission and Inland Wetland Agency. Can we have a roll call, please?
Steve Coffey,
I'm here.
Heather Breslin,
Here.
Cheryl Brown,
Here.
Matt Pence,
Here.
and Catherine Knight.
Here.
If you don't mind me saying, not to play favorites, Matt did mention he was squeezing this one in. Is anybody else also squeezing in? And would you like to virtually arm wrestle to step off so we run with the minimum number of commissioners? Or can we do that? Can we vote on everything tonight is there someone we need? What do we need tonight? Alexis, help. I'm tired. I'm sorry. It's only Tuesday. I'm exhausted.
I hear you. I believe it's always nice to have Commissioner Pence. If without him, you'll still have a quorum. So as long as if there's an item that is up for a vote and a commissioner maybe was out for the last few and can't vote on it, then that commissioner would abstain, and it would still carry with a majority of those present.
Okay, so we have 207 West Rocks Road is one that
Right, that has a potential resolution. Actually, you do need to vote on that one tonight. So yep. So if Matt left, you would still have a quorum, and 3 of you would be voting, and I think Miss Knight would just be abstaining.
would not. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So we're still okay. But I just wanted to put it out there. So I'm going to shut up for 5 seconds and let whatever happens happens.
Yeah, guys, I'll hang on until 6:30 if that's okay. I got a couple things going on, but I can hang tight for a bit.
Perfect.
Great. All right. So let's move forward then. Is anyone online to make a public comment about something not on our agenda?
No, it looks like there are no attendees.
Great. Moving on to receipt and discussion for S24-637, 73 Witch Lane.
All right, so this is at 73 Witch Lane. It's at the corner of Witch Lane and Range Road. I will share my screen real quick to get your bearings. So Witch Lane is down in the Rowayton area. Here's Highland Avenue on this side of the screen, Witch Lane coming across the screen, Range and Ledge coming off. Sorry, did that just load?
Yeah.
I'm pointing, sorry. So here's Witch Lane going north-south across the screen. This is Highland Avenue. Range Road is here. You recently had not recently, a couple of years ago, you saw development applications for 3 lots, 10 Range Road, the new 75 Witch Lane, and another one whose number I can't recall off of Witch Lane. This would be for, there is now a lot, the property lines are not updated, but the lot in question is approximately here. And it's in the location, let me just go to it's in the location of the former house. There had been a residence on this entire lot before it was subdivided. This has since been demolished. So it was approximately where the arrow is.
Alexis, could you zoom in just a tick, please?
Yes.
Thanks.
This is the water course and ponded area. And then in between is a bit of wetlands that are adjacent to the water course. The black lines you see are the silt fence associated with the development of the other lots. You can see that. Here, the silt fence is still there and the demarcation boulders that had required. It's part of those applications. And so again, what you're receiving tonight is an application to build a new house. Sorry, it's not loading. My laptop is stressed out over Zoom and maps at the same time, but it's in this general location. I'm going to stop sharing because that's pretty ugly. One of the things in your packet, I think, was a preliminary review letter that I had sent to the applicant, and the applicant is here tonight. And applicant, you're free to kind of give a verbal overview of your application. One of the things on that letter is to send me a digital copy of your application materials. That's how the commission will be able to see it. So just be sure to send me a PDF prior to the next meeting, which
Yes,
is
I will.
April 9th.
Yeah, I'm meeting the landscape architect there on Friday.
Okay, perfect.
Mr. D.
Mark is fine.
Brandy?
Mark.
Mark?
Mark's fine.
You want to give us the lay of the land, or?
The lay of the land, pretty much Alexa said there was a house where we're proposing to put in a house that was existing there. We built the other 3 homes that are there, and we're trying to basically do exactly what they're asking for, to put the boulder demarcation in, and whatever the guidelines are for that, we're going to follow whatever we're told to do.
Okay, so there's just a lot more information that needs to be included in the
Yes.
application.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just getting the ball rolling here, so you will be
I'm gonna-
following. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would. Alexa sent me a whole checklist, and I'm gonna make sure I check off everything on that checklist.
Great. We love
Mhm.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any
Okay.
questions for us tonight?
No, I mean, so basically, we just wait till you receive everything from me, and then we move forward.
Love it.
Okay. Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Thank
That's
you.
it. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
night.
Okay, that was easy.
Yep.
S23-631, 207 West Rocks Road.
Okay, this, in your packet, there's a staff report that includes a draft resolution to approve with conditions. This was actually sent to you at your March meeting, but I realized that the applicant had never remitted the application filing fee. So that's been taken care of. There is a memo dated March 6th, 2024 in your packet. And the resolution notes that it's corrective action, and it has 8 special conditions. And those conditions generally revolve around kind of describing what exactly should go into the restored buffer, the extent of the buffer, that there needs to be demarcation buffers at boulders rather at the edge of the buffer, and that all the work needs to be completed within 2 months of issuance. So,
Alexis, am I
and
seeing
this-
in item number 5, it looks like it got cut off.
Oh, let's see.
Yep.
Includes all.
Do you want to, I can share my screen, and you can tell me what to type,
I
or?
see that. Sorry about that. Well, look at that. I think I was trying to address the fact, and apparently that was an unfinished thought, address the fact that we do have a real problem with non-native invasive plants taking over where these, especially in these violation areas where it's been disturbed and fill has been brought in, and often that fill has weed seeds in it. And so I was trying to relay the idea that the the buffer and the wetland should be maintained in such a way that they return to their natural vegetated state, but
Mhm.
that they aren't necessarily maintenance free, that they still need to be managed for removal of non-native plants. So that was the intent of that language, is that we're
So what should we tack on the
Can-
end of that in order to be able to move this
Can
forward?
you just put the word in such a manner that allows all native vegetation to grow back? In the first sentence?
that sounds great.
And we're nixing the however until native plants are reestablished? Okay,
To me.
okay. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? Okay, so I will move to approve the resolution dated March 6th for S 23-631 with the edit that we're just gonna delete the third partial sentence in number 5 in the resolution.
And
Have a
include the word native for,
And right, should be answered all native vegetation to grow back.
yes.
Fine, insert the word native. Okay, thank you.
Yep, second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Alright,
Okay, I didn't hear from Catherine, so we're gonna assume she abstains.
I abstain. Yeah, I wasn't
She
here
abs-
last week.
Carries.
Okay. we'll
Just
let him know.
Moving on then, let's make the best use of everybody while we got them, right?
Mhm.
Right?
S 24-632, 35 Weatherbell Drive. Mr.
Okay,
Pascarella
so-
is joining us, who I heard is an Emmy-winning sports television producer. Is that true?
It's close enough.
Wow.
Yes.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you for that. It's a long time coming. I said I wouldn't retire from television until I get an Emmy. So no,
For
I'm
the-
not retiring yet.
For the Red Sox, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, no, actually the New York Yankees.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
So
big difference
Br-
there.
slightly, although rumor has it that the Red Sox aren't going to do good this year, and who knows with Garrett Cole, what's going on. It's always fun kicking off the season because we had recently our yearly kickoff, and we get access to Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone. So pretty much unrestricted questions could be asked,
Cool.
but
Steve,
nobody
do I
does.
want to know how you procured this information?
Rick McQuaid.
Yeah. Rick and I go back a long way. I don't like to talk about that stuff in front of the commission because
All right.
I don't like throwing names around and that stuff, but Rick and I have talked, yes.
Got it.
But thank you for that. I appreciate that.
You're
I
welcome.
just need 2 more to get, so each one of my boys, when I pass, can have an Emmy.
Have one. All right. Well, get to work. Let's get this out of your way so you can focus on that.
Yes, and an $8 million renovation project that we've started. So that's why I've said it. It's started, and I want to get this taken care of so I can focus on the late night hours and everything else we need to do.
There you go.
So
All right, Alexis. So what do we have here that you sent to us?
So I think at the last meeting, we talked about kind of how to complete the application, and some of the unknowns are kind of locational information, and then kind of related to that is the confirmation that the delineated wetland, that there aren't delineated wetlands under the fill. Since you know, the wetland line comes up to the fill line whenever they're concurrent. And so I know that Mr. Pasquarelli, you had secured a small excavator person,
yeah,
but
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, but I was just gonna say,
Okay.
but you couldn't get
So,
the soil
yeah,
scientists
so-
back out there. I
Yeah,
guess.
so the day after our last meeting, I contacted someone with a machine that was willing to come out. I think we originally had it scheduled for the 21st. I reached out to Jay Fain that same day, and he wasn't sure. That he's basically, we text back and forth. He's like, not sure. So I waited till Monday, and Alexis, hopefully I saw you were away from the office for a little bit. So hopefully you got a nice little vacation out of that. Well deserved at that. And he asked, I reached out to him a week ago Monday to see if he was available. He said he's booked out for the next month. I'm like, oh great, here we go. And he asked some questions. I have him on text message. I could also email the photos to you if you want them. But he wanted to know what they wanted. And I said, you had some questions about the delineation line, and I'm quoting him now with one little minor typo in there I'll leave out. He says, the delineation line is correct as the property currently is. If they're trying to find buried wetlands, I don't think they will succeed. So he's saying that
Does he say why? Wait,
no, that's all he said. I noticed some of the answers in the past are what they are. He didn't say why. I mean, I have what I think might be why. I know he had a hard time, and I have that in an email time. He had a hard time getting into the ground. The ground is very rocky. Where in the back, I call it the woods. Pardon me, I'm not calling it the right thing, but in the woods section of it, it's very rocky in there, and I can see why he had a hard time getting in the ground. So I think that may be part of it.
Okay. Well, I think we probably, well, first of all, we're running out of time, so we're going to have to ask you to grant us more time to get this resolved. Is that right, Alexis? Oh, she's running away.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
I think we can probably, I don't want to speak for everybody, but we're going to have to keep trying to answer the question about how far the wetland soils go back under the fill. Because if the fill got put there somehow, I'm fairly sure it can be dug into and or removed somehow.
I don't think and I can't speak for Mr. Fain. I don't think it's a question of getting down into the fill, although whatever's there is there. I think it's a problem. I think it may be, and again, I'm the layman, so I don't know. I think he has a hard time getting the samples that he needs to get in order to determine that. So,
Alexis, is this consistent with your experience?
no, but I can, email, Mr. Fain again, just for clarification, and see if he'd be willing to provide additional information. So I don't, some soil scientists are extremely thorough with their, keeping a log of the soil profiles that they encounter and numbering them and indicating where everything is so that they have backup. Other soil scientists are not. So I think it would be helpful if Jay could, because in his report, he kind of says that he stops at fill. If you recall, his line was where he drew it on the sketch map was different than where it is in real life. And that difference is the recent filling. And so I will ask him if he can confirm that when he was doing his soil sampling, that he felt that the line ended where he mapped it, not because there was fill on top of it, but because that was where he last saw wetland soil. So it may just be that he needs to clarify what he mapped.
Well, again, in his text, he said, the line is correct where it is.
Okay, so maybe he just needs to give that to the agency in writing, and explain why the line is correct.
Okay. And
so-
again, sorry.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's mainly from halfway on the house, basically, is just where I word it, to the left, because again, on the right-hand side, the delineation line is from as far back as like almost 35 feet from what I measured from the existing rocks.
Well, I'll just jump in. So
Okay.
we're gonna have to, something is going to happen. Not nothing. That's not an option for what's gonna happen here. So I think we all are pretty much on the same page with the fact that dirt was filled on top of other dirt. That dirt that was underneath may or may not be, or it is wetland dirt up until a certain point. All of these things are very nebulous right now. Is that the right word? Ephemeral, whatever. They're not very concrete. So what we need is somebody, and it's gonna just take more time, I believe, and I don't mean to speak for everybody here, but we gotta get this stuff written down by a professional with the, due diligence, all that stuff. And so all we have to say is, okay, here's what it is versus here's what it was, here's what it's gonna be, and we're off to the races.
So I would again strongly recommend that you retain a surveyor and have the surveyor go out ASAP. And then they would be able to survey the flags and the limit of fill, the new rocks. And I will reach out to Mr. Fain. You'll have to talk to Mr. Fain after I talk to him. I will just talk to him to understanding that you don't do wetland work every day. I will explain to him what the agency is looking for as far as clarification. And then you'll have to connect with him to figure out how, to get that from him. But I'll at least reach out to him to explain what the commission is looking for clarification. And then I would, again, like I said, I really do think that you unfortunately do need a land surveyor out there to get you a site plan.
So, okay. First off, can you include me in those emails as well?
Yes.
Your email?
Yes.
Thank you, please. And also, should we wait until we get some concrete answers for
At
Mr.
this
Fain?
point, I would not. I mean, from what your characterization of your conversation with Mr. Fain, it sounds like you're saying that he is saying that his line is in the right place.
Correct.
So
And I can send you pictures of the text messages if you want.
no, that's fine.
We gotta get stuff on.
So I think you want to get a survey going sooner than later.
Yeah.
And that's gonna, all your stuff will be helped with a survey.
Okay.
So how much time do we need, Alexis? Do you think, how much time can we add
So-
to our deadline to wrap this up?
So the commission has to open a public hearing at some point. They have statutory timelines for opening a public hearing. That's 65 days from the receipt of the hearing of the application. And so without an extension from the applicant, the commission would have to either make a decision or tonight or schedule a public hearing for their next meeting on April 9th. And you're not ready you don't want a public hearing at the next meeting. So you can grant an extension of the commission's time, you want to grant them an extension of time so that they're not forced to make a decision that you don't want. You can grant an extension of up to 65 days total. And so there are some different timelines that the commission is under. So they have 65 days from the receipt date, which was February 13th, to either make a decision or hold a hearing. Then they have 35 days to hold the hearing, and then they have another 65 days or 35 days rather, to make a decision. So you can grant them up to 65 days of an extension of time.
I'm sorry, Alexis, just to clarify, what makes this
Yeah.
candidate for a public
Significant.
hearing? Yes.
Oh,
Now, why, yeah, I was curious about that too.
Um,
Did
We had asked
decide
about
it
the
was
amount of
yardage thing?
fill. I think we had
yeah,
asked
because
last
of
time about the amount of fills.
the
to
amount of
determine.
fill, and then let's see. The amount of fill, and then the proximity to the wetland. That's right. He applied as an intermediate, but oops. I think that I would hold off making the determination that it requires a public hearing once you determine whether wetlands have been directly filled or not. I think that
Bingo.
was. assumption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's try to save ourselves the brain damage of going down that road unless we absolutely have to. I think. Maybe not. Anyway, okay. All right, so do you grant us another 65 days, Mike?
Well, I mean, in my view, I'd like to get it done tonight. But
Well, it's not up to us. What, so this is
I
us
know.
us being held to a standard
Yeah.
to make sure we don't keep you hanging on longer than we have to. And
Right.
you have to give us permission to drag it out farther, which we don't want to do, but we have no choice because it's not going to work out otherwise.
I mean, like Alexis said, I don't want you to make a decision that I don't want to hear. So,
Go.
so yes, I'd be willing to drag it out, and just please keep in mind that I may be doing a meeting from work or two now that the season started. So that may.
Yeah.
Ju-
Well,
You're
it'll
in the
be done
driver's
when we
seat.
have the information. I think it'll go quickly once we have
Yeah.
the information we need. So as long as we have it, we won't have to have extra meetings.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
less we can do, the better for all of us.
Yeah, but don't sell us short, because if we don't have
No.
anything that we can work with,
No.
then it's going to drag on even longer, and there's
Yeah.
going to be, all the other process that happens after.
And again, I said it many times. I'm, more than happy to work with you. And as long as we can come to a nice solution for everybody, it'd be okay.
Okay,
So.
get us a survey. That'll be a great start.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll give them a call, and we'll go from there. So, and I'm still a little ticked that the city lost my survey, so
Well, I don't think there ever was a survey of your property.
really, how could
Yeah.
that happen?
That's classic 50s and 60s.
I'm going to talk
Really?
to our town clerk about that. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's,
Yeah. I did talk to the town clerk about that.
okay, so that's good for us. Tonight, we're going to keep moving on if that's okay.
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 And
Thank
so
you.
you just want a site survey, Alexis?
It should be an A2 and T2 survey, so that it should be a land survey that has, that's just a definition of the amount of accuracy. So it's like a real survey. If you're getting a land surveyor, they're gonna do that. And so it's gonna have the locational information, but then I think that you're gonna need the topography. So it's gonna help define the amount of fill. So they should be showing that the edge of the new fill line and the topography. But if you say I need an A2 T2 survey, that's what you're gonna need.
I say A1, T1, T2, T. I have no idea, but
Yeah, so
and
just
my
make sure
only-
that you get topography also. That's the
And
important.
my only concern is, obviously, like I said, financially. I'm
Understood.
not sure what those cost. And then, and then whatever corrective action to do, on top of that, it's gonna be a very tight squeeze for me, so.
I understand, but you need a survey to resolve your zoning issue anyway, so that you'll be getting
Again,
that done too.
In our emails going back and forth, and
Right.
sometimes we have mutual respect, but sometimes I know they get a little heated.
Okay, well, we're gonna keep moving on then, if that's okay.
Okay.
Moving on to our next agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Pasquarello. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thanks.
Okay, and moving on. S24-633, 189 Perry Avenue.
Just one,
They,
there's no updates.
there are no updates. They have hired an engineer. And the engineer is working on developing a site plan and doing the drainage calculations. Looking at the expanded driveway and seeing if that needs stormwater capture as well. And looking at the size and capacity of the dry wells that they installed to make sure that there's no impacts to the river or to the neighboring property. So hopefully we'll have something in advance of your next meeting in April.
Okay, great. Moving on to S24-636.
Sorry, Alexis,
7
just a quick question. Sorry, just,
Yes.
is an extension or anything needed for that one? I know it's been hanging out a little bit.
That one, no, not yet.
Okay, just checking.
We still have time for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Breslin, is there anything else you'd like to add?
That is all. Thank you. Just making sure we're following procedure.
I'm just teasing you.
Thank you.
Thank you. S24-636, 70 Cranberry Road.
Okay, I think Mr. Similides from Lamtech is here. This application was received at your last meeting where you had some comments, and the applicant did return with a revised plan that changed a few elements. I guess the applicant can describe those, but it is still a 3-lot subdivision of land now with 2 physical access points from Cranberry Road. And it's just Mr. Similides, if you want to take it away.
Good evening. For the record, Andy Similides. I'm a principal with Land Tech here in Westport. Also joining shortly, he's trying to get on right now, is Brian Carey, who's head of our environmental division. I'm just going to start sharing the plans, quickly go through some of the modifications. As you recall, this is Cranberry Road out here. Here's that White Barn property to the north. What we did, one of the changes was we added access off of here. We originally had 3 lots accessed off of 1 driveway, which is not allowed. And I'll show you an alternative if we come with 1 driveway, what that looks like. So there's an existing driveway and crossing here, which would access lot 1. 2 lots would be accessed off the existing drive that comes in here. As you may recall, there's 2 residential structures on this property currently. And it's on septic and well, and we would convert to sewer and water. One of the things we looked at closely was the flood zone line based on elevation. So that's shown here in red, coming around the entire property. And in our new proposal, obviously this is just feasibility. Each lot would then come in individually with their own permit after the fact, if this subdivision were to be approved, for a site development plan of each lot. But what we did as going through this exercise was showing that we can get a fairly decent sized house with driveway, drainage, grading, and the such, all outside this red line. So basically not encroaching at all within the flood zone line, thus not impeding on the capacity of the carrying waters of Stony Brook in this vicinity. We also provide an alternative. In this alternative, we would not use this access drive. As you can see, it's still shown here because it does exist. And it goes into this White Barn Theater, and they have an easement over here for access. We would put in a 22-foot wide private road, expand on the existing crossing here with a new bridge, and for zoning purposes, it would require a cul-de-sac. So this is an alternative we're showing as a 3-lot with 1 crossing as the alternative. This again shows how we were able to get drainage and all the other elements outside of that floodway line. We were also, as part of this exercise, we kind of move lot lines to the maximum we can to increase setbacks from wetlands. So I think last time we spoke, this was, let me just scale it for you, was closer to like 20 feet, that setback, and now we have closer to 35 feet at the closest point. Again, conceptual, but it just shows that we've expanded our developable area. We've moved it further away from the wetlands and the such. This again is the 50-foot from the wetland, and this is the 100-foot from the water course. And we adjusted all of our numbers accordingly. On this sheet, which talks about the limits of disturbance, and I can go into more detail if you like, but we have updated our limits of disturbance within the upland review area, and obviously updated all of our plan sheets accordingly, all the way through to our landscaping plan. So I think we've addressed all the staff's comments. Like I said, Brian was able to join, so you see him now on the Zoom. He's head of our environmental division. So I'm, again, happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
One of the things I just wanted to throw out, so obviously the update of the zoning regulations has been significant as we city staff kind of wade through it, but one of the things that will change for the development of the lot is the placement of the driveway relative to the front. For the conceptual plans to work, particularly for the 2 rearmost lots, the zoning regulations no longer allow the garage to be at the front of the building. And so they will have to be side like the proposed lot 1. So it's just, I just want to give you a heads up there that it
Sure.
is going to potentially take up a little bit more space.
Is that on all lots, Alexis?
I
Throughout the
believe so. I'm
You
waiting
have-
for confirmation of that, but I believe it's for all of the kind of resident, yeah, all lots, except for when you get down to closer in the urban core kind of zones.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't see that one.
Yep. And then I have a little bit of concern about the just the conceptual drawing for the lot 2, I guess it is, in its narrowness. But
Which,
which is the top top right lot.
This one here?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
I
you're,
have a question about the alternative. It looked like the setbacks were set up differently on the
Correct.
alternative.
So again, this is based on, as Alexis was mentioning, on the previous zoning regulations. Under the previous zoning regulations, you're allowed rear lots. The current zoning regulations do not allow rear lots. So this technically doesn't conform to the new regulations. But what I guess Alexis is mentioning, if each one of these have to go on with their individual permit after the subdivision potentially gets approved, these lots will now be subject, even though they're grandfathered in, will be subject to the new zoning regulations. So in rear lots, you had a 40-foot setback, building setback all around.
Yep.
These aren't rear lots now. This is a private road with a cul-de-sac, so these convert into regular lots. So it expands the building area for sure, right? So you could pull these closer. You just have a little bit more disturbance. Obviously, you have to rework the crossing here in this alternative, but there is more buildable area, as you're pointing out, as the side and rear setbacks do get reduced.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And so that's your proposed alternative.
Correct.
One. And could you talk to the commission more about, you had said that other alternatives weren't prudent or feasible. Could you just maybe explain?
Sure. I mean, I guess there's the no build, right, alternative where you leave everything as is and renovate in place, which is 2 structures. Reason we don't like that, they're on septic and well. Well, not so much of a concern, but septic, obviously with proximity to the wetlands and septic failures and the such could provide some issues there. We don't know exactly where the septic is located. We're looking on the land records to see if we can get that information, but that's one option. Option 2 would obviously be a 2-lot subdivision. And in the 2-lot, it would be back to this one, similar to this. We didn't draw it up, but you're basically taking this lot and taking half and giving it to this lot and half to this lot, essentially. And you'd have this same driveway, same crossing that would occur today, like we're showing as this proposal. So this all would have remained the same. You would probably lose, I'd say, this lot 2, and then you'd have 2 lots back here. So that's,
So, oops, sorry, excuse me. I didn't mean to
Sure.
interrupt.
no, that's all I had to share.
Just remind me though, with the current 3-lot plan, one of them or 2 of them was going to remain septic and well.
No, they would all be on sewer. So if I bring you to
They
the
all would.
utility, correct. So
thought
this
you
is our
said-
utility plan. The sewer connection, there's a private sewer line that runs from this new development that was at the White Barn
Right.
there, that runs through here and up Cranberry and connects into Partridge.
Okay, for
This
some reason
line
I thought
here-
you said 2 out of the 3 and I didn't.
Yeah, we have access, we have the rights to connect to that line. So our connection would actually happen right in this location. As the line already goes through the bridge and all that. So our location of the sewer connection would be here, and all 3 homes would be connected to city water and city sewer.
Yeah, and so, right, in any of the development, if you were to tear down the old house or redevelop it, because there is sewer available, you likely would be connecting the sewer, no matter what you were to do with the lot, whether it was 1, 2, 3, or more lots.
Right. When there's sewer available, they typically make you connect.
Correct.
Andy, I was looking at your environmental assessment report, page 10. It looks like the second alternative was building an apartment building. I don't see a 2-lot, not that it matters, but I just want to make sure we're consistent with the information we're talking about.
Let me pull that out.
Alexis, I have to drop.
All right, thank you for letting
Thanks.
me.
Yep, 6:45. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest
Thanks,
of the day.
Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, Steve, this is Brian. I obviously put the environmental report together. Yeah, we did provide a couple of alternatives and they aren't as consistent with the plans. That was just in our discussion that under the existing 830G law, apartment building could be built on the site. That's not what the client is looking to do.
And Norwalk isn't subject to 830G.
Oh,
in
that's right. I'm
any way.
sorry.
You're not in Westport.
That's right. We would, it'd have to get a zone change, which is probably not likely. So that was considered, but obviously was not a feasible and prudent alternative.
Okay. And is building just a one lot, like rebuilding as is basically. Is that a alternative to the?
Yeah, I think that was A, Steve. I think no build alternative is really,
Well, no build is no build, but could you rebuild, like, for example, a house?
oh, like a tear down rebuild?
A tear down rebuild, yeah. Is that
Yeah.
is that an alternative too?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
you can definitely just tear down and rebuild what's there. That's, I don't know if it's prudent, right? When you have this amount of land to go that route, but,
Depends on how you look at it.
I don't know if that's what they mean by prudent.
Well,
Was
But
there
prudent-
any, I have a question as well. Was there any configuration with either 2 or 3 lots that does not get, I mean, in one of the lots, it looks like it's within the 50-foot setback, you know, we're only getting 35 feet away. And looking at the erosion control plan, I don't really know how anybody would build a house with the erosion control right up against the back of the house. They usually need access around. So I feel like the disturbance there is definitely greater than what's being depicted. Were there any alternatives where the houses were all outside of 50 feet from the wetlands?
let me pull that up again.
And just for clarification, it's not technically a setback, it's an upland review area, so it's, not to split hairs, but,
Yep,
Right,
the review area.
yeah.
and it's
So-
100 feet for the water course, so, go ahead.
Right, so I'll just show quickly where this 50-foot is.
Can you use a different color, Andy?
Yeah, I'll change it.
All right.
We'll make it blue.
Blue.
So
Merci.
there's your 50-foot. You're looking at a corner of this house, really, is what's within the 50-foot. And I think, we rejigged all these property lines to the best we could to stay away from all the natural resources on the property. So I don't think there's a scenario in the 3 lot that all 3 homes could be outside the 50. Obviously you can see there's some room here with these 2 lots outside the 50, but to get the lot area and the access ways, like you can't count these access ways as part of your lot area. So in order from a zoning perspective, to get the amount of lot area you need for each one of these lots, we kind of fine-tuned it to the best possible we could to, push them as far away from the wetlands as possible.
Yeah, I think you just highlighted probably what most of us are concerned about with this 3-lot proposal. I won't speak for the others, but and
I agree. It's a concern because, these are proposed, this isn't what might get put forward as the final plan. And so then you're, starting a little bit from scratch with each lot and going through the application process. Once the lots if they're subdivided, and the idea that there is a relationship between the buffer and the water course, which is why there's the buffer zone, and preferably it would be a vegetated buffer zone, but we understand that, there's the compromises that wind up happening. And I just see a lot of setting up and subdividing for a lot of compromise to a buffer zone that's intended to be there to help protect the wetland resource.
So I think, let me just pull up. Subdivision map. It doesn't show any house. So could somebody theoretically build a smaller house on lot 3? Sure. This is, if we're talking about sticking to 50-foot as and the flood zone line as being our restrictors, that's your buildable area, right, for lot 3. So could you stick a smaller house in here? Sure. I mean, these are 2,400 square foot footprint homes that I'm showing. They're fairly large homes. So could you do a smaller house in here? For sure. You can see this house that currently exists could easily slide into this space. So I think we did show a fairly larger home on all these, which are like, you know, it's in the Cranberry area of Norwalk. There are larger homes surrounding us. So we did, you know, I live in Cranberry. I lived in Norwalk my whole life, so very familiar with this site. I drive by this site twice a day to get home. So my parents live across the street, so I really know this area well. So yeah, there are larger homes in Cranberry. So we did show fairly large, you know, just rectangles, right? Somebody could easily come in and do, you know, and fit within this box, I guess is my point, and get something to work for them.
Right, but
in
I think
terms
what the agency is saying is that there's a lot more than just the home, that they have to look at the stormwater management.
Sure.
And the fact that, you know, the lawn area and all that comes with each residence.
Sure.
And-
And I think that's what, you know, going back to the site plan, this is a gravel drive. These are gravel driveways. It doesn't need to be paved. It's not a 2-foot right away. It's gravel driveway now. We would maintain that. So that's all low impact development. Again, drainage where the road handles itself for drainage. We did site drainage on each one of these lots conceptually, again, for some decent, fairly large homes. So there is drainage shown on each one. We did show utilities. I think we showed all the elements that would need to be on a plan for this. Again, somebody can come in and build a smaller house, and you guys obviously have the authority to look at that plan again and make a decision. So you could easily build a 1,500 square foot house on 2.5 stories. I think maybe you're allowed 3 stories. Now with the new zoning regs, you could make a smaller footprint and still get square footage.
But is that, so let me ask, like, long game here, is that what the
Sure.
client wants, right? So if we approve 3, you know, subdividing into 3 spots, and they attempt to design something that is ultimately going to be frustrating for them because it has to be a 1,400 square foot house tucked in the back, like, is that their, you know,
In their best interest.
is that in their, right,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah,
What's
they'd rather
worse,
have a
to do
smaller
2
house.
lots or, yeah.
Yeah, I think they'd rather build smaller homes on 3 lots than 2 McMansions, if you want to call them that. Yeah, I think that's what their goal would be.
But
Match
it's,
the neighbors or.
I mean,
yeah,
I
I guess
think,
it's just hard
so,
for us to
like-
anticipate that. Sorry, go, please.
I think also, you know, we're talking about going forward as well, forward looking and having conversations around following suit with other towns in terms of 100-foot upland review area. And I think one of the things that was highlighted at the conference for inland wetland commissioners is the challenge of subdivision and being very careful about it, especially when there's wetlands and review areas, because it tends to over time put a lot of pressure on the wetland resources, because you wind up having to make a lot of compromises, and a lot of encroachment then happens, and a lot of impact subsequently happens from this. And so that's one of my concerns in looking at this, you know, setting up challenges going forward with the development of 3 lots on this property that has, you know, quite substantive wetland on each of the lots. And they're really hinging up close to floodland and the buffer areas, so to speak.
Right. One thing we did put together and was this fairly extensive landscaping plan. We can make this part of the subdivision approval. Saying
Can you
they
zoom
need
in
to
a little
go-
bit, Andy, please?
Sure. That
Okay.
they need to implement all this plantings before they put a shovel in the ground for any building of these homes. I think our client is amenable to doing these plantings. I think last hearing, I think it was mentioned that this could be conceptual, but I think we're willing to implement this extensive planting plan as part of the subdivision plan before anything else gets built.
And
Correct.
there is demo that would need to be done on the existing site, one of the sites, right? Is that correct?
There's a structure here
Yeah.
and a structure here.
And some trees are coming down too, right?
Yeah, there's a few trees that need to come down, and we put it together a you know, tree removal plan.
But we minimized the amount of trees that need to be removed as part of the subdivision development. The other thing too is that yeah, that plan, as Andy said, wasn't really a conceptual plan. I mean, we can add more to that. We tried to work within the boundaries of the existing features as much as possible, planting around existing trees. But the other thing to note is that site is mostly disturbed as it is, even though there's a single house and a barn. The entire property has been basically disturbed, either through you know, past work that's been done, or even there is substantial it appears to be storm damage along the perimeter during, I don't know which storm, but if you've gone out there, you can see that a lot of trees have been knocked over by storm damage that have been cleaned up.
Okay. Commissioners? Any other thoughts, questions? Alexis, what are our, next step options? Did we lose Alexis? Oh, no, there she is.
She said,
No, I'm got my files spread out all over the place. You can. Where have I put you? You still have time. You're not up against your decision deadline. I can tell you that much. If I recall, it was a significant regulated activity. That's
Mhm.
fine. Anything.
So the actual subdividing would need its own public hearing.
Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry, Alexis.
But you don't need to, yeah, so you can go ahead and schedule that if you want. But you're not up against a deadline to schedule that. Really depends on, yeah, I mean, you can just move. It's up to you.
Well, I'm sure the applicant doesn't want this hanging around any longer than necessary. And I guess I'll just say that I think we're trying to squeeze too much into a sensitive area. But I am not a professional. And so, part of me always likes the idea of having the third party opinion that we could ask for. I mean, I understand that, and it's a very thorough application. There doesn't seem to be anything that is, untoward, and the assessment report is, I can't find anything that doesn't smell right. It's just that it wouldn't hurt maybe if it's not convincing enough for me to say I just don't like it, which I could totally understand. It wouldn't be bad to have a professional maybe help articulate why I don't like it.
Okay.
But that's just me. I don't.
yeah, I think one thing I'd like to add, if I may, as I mentioned, from a zoning perspective, this doesn't conform to the current regs, right? So the current regs would only allow one lot here. So there was the impetus to get this in before the Wetlands Board and the planning and zoning board to allow for this to happen. So, and I know this is kind of out of the, you know, hey,
It
if
is
you're
what it
gonna
is.
vote no, let me know and give me an alternative. I get that,
Yeah.
but if I'm hearing strongly, and I've heard this from a few folks tonight, if you're looking for a 2-lot alternative, is that something you guys want us to put together and show you so you have a comparison? Because a 2-lot wouldn't be allowed under the current zoning regs either. So I think we're just trying to protect the rights of the, you know, the property owner under the old guise of the regulations. And we're trying to navigate this in a way where we're not left with 1 lot. I think if it's a 2-lot thing that I'm hearing, we're willing to look and explore that and come back to you folks with a 2-lot alternative.
I'm with Steve on this, and I will say that, like, my initial reaction to this whole thing, quite frankly, makes me uncomfortable because I just feel like we're trying to, you know, I don't, again, like, to echo Steve, I don't have the, well, this line is, you know, here, and so what are the implications when they start to build? And like, there's all just these unknowns. And I think that I personally would like to see a 2-lot. I mean, I would like to see, you know, but I understand the point of view of the owner. I would prefer a 2-lot proposal
Sure.
to review. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Cheryl or Catherine, do you have thoughts? And it's
Agreed.
okay if you don't.
Yeah, I'd like to see a 2-lot proposal, preferably one that, you know, leaves the buffer zone a buffer zone. You know, like that, the regulated activities, because there's going to be times where we've seen applications where people have then wanted to put in pools, patios, decks, all kinds of things that then encroach in. And when you're already over into the zone, you really put a lot of pressure onto this commission for future applications for these lots when you look at it. And knowing from the conference and everything, and lawyers saying, like, one of the things you really need to watch out for and pay attention to is the subdivision and future compromise to the resources that you're being asked to protect. So it makes me uncomfortable to see already this kind of encroachment, because we don't have control over what ultimately then gets presented from each of the lot applicants for the development of their lot.
No,
And I
you
don't
do.
much we can put in restricting exactly what happens on each of the lots at this stage. Versus saying, could we look at a 2-lot to begin with, or 1 lot, you know?
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I think maybe.
Sounds like no public hearing scheduled this evening.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
maybe we plan on seeing you guys again in April.
Sure. With a
Maybe
2-lot.
with a 2-lot solution that you know, gives us as much buffer as we can to the wetland and water course. And hopefully that's a little more palatable to the commission.
Understood.
Great. Well, thank you for the, you know, again, high quality application, as
Thank you.
always from Land Tech. So thank you. For
It is lovely.
Thank you. Quick
Okay.
night.
Okay, okay. Well, we'll at that we'll move on with the meeting. So thank you, gentlemen.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Okay, approval of the March 12th meeting minutes.
I read them and I approve.
God, is that a
I
motion?
knew I did it for you, Steve, just for you.
I'll second that. I looked them over too.
Wonderful. All right, so it was a motion from Breslin and a second from Brown. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3, 4, and 1 abstention. I love that word. I don't know why. I think it's so cool. Abstention. Conservation initiatives. Do we want to talk? We've got, it's only 7:05. I haven't made any progress on what Alexis sent from last time, but it doesn't mean we can't do something about it. As far as I'm talking specifically, the 100-foot upland review area.
Yeah, so did everyone receive, I had sent some materials from Westcog. I can resend them real quickly if, is that helpful?
No,
Uh,
don't recent. I've got them. I know exactly where they are.
Okay.
Um,
Catherine, I think I sent that to you too.
Yes, I got it. It was
Okay.
great. That's a little bit what I was referring to previously in our meeting.
Alexis, were you able, I don't know, maybe I missed this, sorry, I apologize if I did, but we had talked about some GIS overlays that would, you did, and you're nodding,
Yeah.
so you feel like you sent it to me and I didn't see it.
No, I think because I just got it from Amelia. Hold on a minute.
Okay, all right. Usually that nod means yes, it's in your
Yeah,
inbox,
no,
so you
it's
didn't look.
yeah, it's the nod of, oh, I need to look for I put it under applications. Hold on. So many emails. And then I try to like organize them and then I can't find it. Okay, so I don't have a map to send you, but I will read to you what Amelia said.
Okay.
And I'll preface this by saying, I think the way that you should, one should think about upland review areas is resource based. So what are the impacts to a wetland? What are the impacts to a watercourse? How far away do activities start to, there's kind of like this diminishing return, right? So your proximity to a wetland, the closer and more proximal you are, the more potential for impact. The further away you are, there's a reduction in that impact potential. Where does it drop off where the commission is comfortable with negligible impact? And then I also want to reiterate that it's not the upland review area that is regulated, it's the activity really that is regulated. So if there's clearly no activity, if there's an activity within the upland review area, but the activity can't be physically connected to the wetland or watercourse, then it would not require a permit.
So what's that, what is the area of diminishing returns, do you think? Like, what is, I mean, that's what we're trying to decide, right? Kind of, like, so.
Yeah. So I just wanted to
No, it's a
that
good
out.
point, but I don't know enough, I think, to understand what that is, right?
Understood. So going back to your original question though, which had to do with how many parcels or property owners might be directly impacted by the wetland regulations if this change were to happen. So I'm just going to read Amelia's email. Just random calculations. There are approximately 8,428 parcels that are currently within the 50-foot upland review area of wetlands or the 100-foot upland review area of a watercourse. If the wetland URA was expanded to 100, an additional 492 parcels would potentially fall under Inland Wetland Agency jurisdiction. In total, that would mean 8,920 parcels are within both a wetland and or a watercourse.
5% increase.
Yeah.
That is not the result I thought we were gonna get, so.
And we'll caveat that by saying that not all wetlands are delineated. And so we don't have a way to delineate all wetlands. We use our estimated wetlands. This includes delineated and estimated wetlands. But there are other wetlands out there that we can't capture yet.
Look,
Although we're working on that.
I think the reason I ask is to balance practicality also, right? And I don't know what that area is for, for the diminishing returns to take place. Like, is it 50? Is it 100? Is it 500? I don't know. But I think, my concern and the reason I asked obviously is if that number doubled, if that 8,000 became, let's even say, 14,000 or whatever. I don't even know how many we have in the total, but I think it presents another potential thing to deal with in the future that maybe would have unintended consequences. So I was trying to balance, but I don't see an issue with, what you said, like, yep. I was terrified when you were reading out that number, just so you know, I was sitting here like, what's it gonna be? What is it gonna be? What is it gonna be?
Yeah. So, yeah, not a huge change.
Wait, I'm looking at, if you don't mind, I'm looking at
Mhm.
the link, the Westcog link, page 14. Where does it say, I'm only seeing a survey of water course upland review area. Is there a wetland review area somewhere in there too? Or is it just water
Um,
courses?
This, this is just water courses.
Just water, okay.
Yep. So this was, oh, that's right. Thought though that they had, maybe this isn't the one that I may have to continue. There is a similar, there is similar information out there somewhere that has upland review area from wetlands. I'm reading this now too, and it is just water courses.
Back to the Google hole, Alexis.
Yes, so I'll have to continue to, I may have to just ask around. Right, so the riparian corridor protections, that was a Westcog deep dive into the need for riparian protection and basically how the Wetland Act is really focused, as you guys know, as this one individual lot, each individual case. It's like a new review every time, whereas zoning has these swaths of, okay, in this area we want to do this, in this area we want to do this. And so this was a musing on maybe the zoning regulations might be a better fit for protecting watercourse corridors. And to back that up, you're right. They talk only about upland review area from watercourses. All right, I will.
I'm not saying that's the reason for us not to
Yep.
continue to talk about it. I just honestly I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Let me just double check.
So I think, so Catherine, you definitely, since you brought it up, you're a 100-footer. I'm impartial, I think, at this moment. Heather, you're maybe leaning away from it? Or impartial?
I'm impartial now.
Okay. Cheryl? You're muted.
Sorry, I mostly impartial right now.
Okay.
I think I want to read a little more about it, and I will admit I didn't get a chance to read that information that Alexis sent, but
That's okay. Either. Catherine, are we being just a bunch of chickens?
I think so, to be honest, because when you look at it, I mean, the number of times with applications within the 50 feet, we compromise consistently.
Yeah.
And in lawns, and none of the reports that the wetland scientists are putting it talks about hypoxia and the issue of the pollutants going into the watercourse, which is a huge problem for Long Island Sound. And with climate change and global warming and the algae blooms, like it's just compounding like an already problematic state that the planet's dealing with. And so adding in a little extra buffer for us to work with, I think is beneficial. Ways that we can try to absorb and minimize pollutants and everything getting, especially for the water courses, is really important. So, if we have that extra 100 foot, yeah, there's going to be compromises that are made, but hopefully then you just add in more buffer for us to add in more protection, I guess.
Wait, so I'm sorry, what was the proposal? It was to moving 50 to 100 for the upland review, but what was it for the water course then?
It's a,
To keep it the same. Which is 100 feet currently.
So 100 for both, just 100.
Keep it 100.
Oh, okay, I thought Catherine, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you said increasing the
no, I'm just saying.
waterway, yeah.
Have it.
So like, I'm trying to think of how it would affect. I know we're not supposed to talk about other, specific properties, but I mean, if
Yeah.
if theoretically one had a proposed subdivision in a wetland watercourse laden
Intensive area.
um, how does it change how we would look at that? I mean, so basically that rules out, the existing properties on that particular site,
Well, it's
let
not
alone anything new.
It's not a setback, so.
It's not a setback, but so then why do we care about it? Is the point I'm making. Like, are we just going to end up compromising just as much as are we going to end up compromising more than we compromise now with, saying that, oh, it's not in the wetland, but it's in the upland review area. And, like, is it going to backfire on us is what I'm getting at. Because what it does is it makes everything a violation. And I mean, hell, half the houses in Norwalk that have wetlands on them, or half the properties probably have a house built within 100 feet of the wetland, right? And I'm not trying to Catherine, I'm with you 1,000%. I mean, I'm from Iowa, where all the hog shit and fertilizer and everything goes into the water courses and down in the river and ends up in Louisiana, right? So like, I get it. I'm just thinking of like don't want to create more. Not even more work for ourselves. It's not about that. It's just about, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I actually see it both ways, less options, less avenues of how to proceed. Like, so we come up against things where it's like you said, I mean, okay, I'll say it again. My property, right, is about like a postage stamp. If I had a wetland or anything on that, like there's people, the median lot size in Norwalk, 100 feet is different than the median lot size in Wilton.
Right.
It has a different impact. And so but I'm also of the other side of it, where if we say 100 feet, maybe it forces us to say, well, 50 feet is like, internally
Is
we
our
say
no-go.
is the no-go.
Right.
So you know what I mean? Like I'm not against it either in theory. Like I just am trying to balance what that looks like.
Well, yeah, and how relevant should be the lines that a bunch of white dudes drew 100, 200 something years ago? How relevant really does that need to be to the health of our waterways? Like, to be completely honest, it's totally arbitrary. All the rules that we live by and govern us theoretically are arbitrary. So what is, the essence of what we're doing? It's,
Just give
actually,
options.
no, technically, Alexis is going to correct me, because technically we are here to uphold the statutes which are written by people, and that's it. So,
It's just
Yeah.
got too little too deep for me.
a hard line not to straddle, basically, is what I'm getting at.
You're right. I
argue
can't
that
say
the
we
wetland-
internally think
I
that.
also think like 100, it sends, it's a message to people about being aware of activities that you're doing and the sensitivities of what's happening.
Right.
So if you say like, these things are important and the buffers have a role, and if you read the full report, these are important. Like there's a relationship between the wetlands and the buffer zone. It's
Totally.
not that they just, and I think that it then is a signaling mechanism or market signaling mechanism, that you need to think about what the activities are that are happening within there. And have a sensitivity and just have a little bit broader view. Yes, there's houses that are in there currently, but I'm always of the mindset of when we know better, we do better. So.
Yeah.
So does that mean, let me just get your take. Honestly, I'm really coming from trying to understand the perspective. So if we took some of our recent applications, theoretical applications that we've had, right? And in theory, we push that boundary out 50 more feet. Is that implying what we're saying, that like whatever is there now has to remain? Is that going to be do you think that will be the implication of what 100 feet would do? So like whatever's there existing either has to stay. And if you want to change anything, you can't make any significant alterations to anything within that boundary. I'm genuinely, I'm curious, like to get your take on it.
So, no, because that's not happening now with 50. Like there's, if I understand what you said correctly, and you had cut off for a while, so I actually only heard.
Probably for the best.
No, I just couldn't. You were frozen, at least for me, maybe not for everyone else, because my computer is going it's making like swirling noises. So
you're you're doing a little bit like of MTV, like 1980. Yeah.
So I honestly couldn't hear all of what you're saying, but okay, restate your question.
I'm just trying to all I'm trying to do is understand what the implications would be further, right? So I was thinking, if you take, let's say, some of theoretical applications we looked at tonight, not the theoretical subdivision, the other theoreticals, and you push that boundary out to 100 feet, right?
Mhm.
Like we're well within houses in most cases in that sense. Is that then implying that pretty much you need to leave your land, your house, like they need the homes and what is built now needs to essentially stay the same? Is that
Okay,
the implication or is it not?
No, and that's not the current implication. So right now you have 50 feet, and that doesn't mean that everything has to stay the same within 50 feet, because that's why you have all these applications before you. The wetland regulations are not outright prohibitive, first of all. So they don't say that you can't do anything. They don't say you can't, pipe or fill or whatever. They say that you need to get a permit first. And I think and I wish that you had more proactive applications before you than
I think I was going to say, I think that's a lot of it, because a lot of them are.
Right. So just keep in mind the economy of corrective actions. Be very careful in reviewing corrective actions, because there's a lot of corrective actions and there's not a lot of proactive applications. And part of that has to do with the economy of doing it and then asking for forgiveness and getting what you want. So that's my soapbox.
No, that makes sense, because that's helpful, because I think you're right. I think I'm trying to understand what the implication is, and I'm truly trying to understand both sides. And I think that my fear is that what I've seen, a large portion is that the proactive ones come in with a full plan, a fully developed documents, fully everything, and take into account the wetlands and everything that, and then but the majority of what I have seen so far has been a little bit more of a punitive type of situation where we have to go back and,
Slap on the
action,
wrist,
corrective
do your
action.
best to put it back. et
Yeah,
cetera.
do you,
And so-
Right.
if it
Just
were
so you know,
100
there-
feet,
Oh, go ahead.
we
What's that?
might have less corrective, because do you think more people, like, is because it's bigger, more people would maybe know about it? Like, I mean, could it benefit us in some way like that, or?
I mean,
I don't know, I'm just-
possibly, you know, I think, I think going back to the way that the wetland at the end of the day, when you review an activity and its impact on wetlands, it goes back to that individual property and the individual activities proposed and that individual wetland that is potentially impacted. And so every time you and your staff are doing that analysis of how close is this proximity to it, how has this activity already impacted or is going to impact the wetland, and so you do get more critical as you get closer.
Mhm.
I think where an increased upland review area helps is not all properties, because like Heather said, there are existing maintained like active residential, there's homes and streets, there's tennis courts, there's a lot of existing development within 100 feet of both wetlands and watercourses. But I think that where you get a benefit is having a little better control over the properties where activity that is 60 or 70 or 80 feet from the wetland, but it's a lot of big activity,
Mhm.
it gives you that very clear control to regulate it. You do have that control technically in that, again, the wetland regulations are based on regulated activities, and a regulated activity is any activity that is likely to have an impact on a wetland and watercourse. When the wetland regs were first adopted, we didn't have upland review areas. No towns had upland review areas. Norwalk didn't have one until 2005. What we said is that any activity that has an impact needs a permit. Well, that's very kind of wide open and extremely wetland regulation is qualitative to begin with, but without a defined, I'm going to look at this area, it's even more qualitative. And so what the upland review areas do is kind of box in your area of jurisdiction. And so you're basically saying activity within this area might have an impact, and so we want to review it. That doesn't mean that you have to, you guys are pretty pretty good approvers of applications. So just because it's, you know, a higher upland review area doesn't mean that you're going to be saying no to more activities necessarily. I think it just opens the door a little bit for those 400 and, you know, 500 some properties. Well, and the existing properties that you already regulate, for the ones that are kind of tricky or have, I mean, you already do have an exception for slope, so you do extend for slope. I think it just gives you a little bit more clear jurisdiction.
I wonder if we might get more thoughtful development proposals too, you know, if it were larger, because say there's a stand of trees that's 70 feet out and then there's an open area, they might have wanted to go in where the trees were, and you know, we might have a little more, you know, like, I don't know, maybe there are some, like, you know, real benefits that,
Right.
you know, because there are different functions on properties, and if we did have a little more say in
Some of the bigger
the
ones.
space that we're regulating.
Right. Because
Honestly,
right
Alexis,
now-
what,
Yeah,
sorry.
I was just gonna add that right now you don't see all the minor permits, and I should probably
Right.
make a list of all the minor permits that we issue. So you're seeing the activities that are in wetlands, that are very, very close to wetlands, or that have a lot of activity proximal to wetlands, and you're not seeing all of the, either the sign-offs that are within the upland review area that don't trigger the need for a permit, or that they're just within the upland review area, but they're very minor activities that get a minor permit. So I think that, I don't think that it's gonna really change what you're reviewing too much, because you still have that minor and kind of non-permit realm there.
I think that you just changed my mind, to be honest. Like, I'm for 100 feet. I think that where I'm hoping that it does not mean we have to regulate and or a lot more activities. I don't think that's best serves the community, quite frankly. I don't think it's a good use of anybody to say, well, you took out a tree on this one guy's thing that now it's like 25 feet away. That's different. That's not, however, I think where it can have an impact, I think I agree with what you said on the larger lots, on the stuff. I think it is actually, it makes sense and could actually make a bigger impact. So I'm swayed to that side now, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on the larger lots, because if you look at like the trajectory of Norwalk and, you know, where it is with open space.
Yeah.
and, like forestation versus development, you know, the forestation numbers keep coming down percentage wise, like every year in Norwalk. And so having 100-foot review area just gives more opportunities for kind of, you know, helping protect the canopy over the wetlands and water courses.
Yeah.
Okay. What the hell? It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it? No. Never mind. Maybe that's a bad metaphor. Okay, so what's the next step then, Alexis?
Okay, so then the next step, if you want to move forward with your regulation amendment, is that you would put it on as an basically a regulation amendment application. And you can have some initial discussion, but then you'll have to schedule a public hearing. Prior to scheduling the public hearing, you have to send notice to DEEP and some other places, and then you hold a public hearing, and then you close the public hearing, then you make your decision, and then if your decision is that you want to stick with your amendment, you set an effective date and you change the regulations, and we move on.
So we submit an application to ourselves.
Yeah, pretty much. I will type something up. It's not really an application. You have to treat it as if you're not submitting. No, you don't have to submit an application.
I approve it.
This is the government at its finest here, folks.
You have to formalize, you have to hold a public hearing, and you have to formalize what you're proposing to change. So I will type up
That makes sense. Okay.
proposed text amendment to the regulations.
Can we pre-approve it? Because we know we want it.
Well,
No,
maybe other
you're
commissioners
not.
would like to
You
contribute,
have to
who
go
aren't on
through
this
a
call.
process.
There's a committee for that.
No, sadly, you have to go through a process.
Committee.
Sorry, that was good. I think I'm
Do
losing
any
it.
formal motions right now to do that, or?
Catherine
Sure.
wants to,
You
yeah.
can make a motion to direct staff to prepare a formal text amendment application.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to do exactly what Alexis said.
I'll second that.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
All right.
Will do.
Thanks, Catherine, for pushing that one.
Thanks for listening. And Alexis, your contribution or sanity always helps us all.
Yes,
Wisdom.
dumbing it down for me. Hold on.
I don't know
Well, it's
about
a lot to think about, like how it actually,
Yes,
I think your questions are good about how, what does it really change?
okay.
Uh,
that-
Oh, sorry. On that note, does staff have any thing else to enlighten us on?
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Dribs and drabs.
Tips and jobs. Okay, cool. Commissioners? Nothing else? Okay.
I don't really want to open up a whole new topic because I think we're all we were all hoping for, but just a quick thought bubble was just what you were saying about some of these things might be better suited for zoning to be in the zoning regs, and I know that they're just rewriting the zoning regs, but that doesn't mean there couldn't be things added or amendments or things that they do that they pass it, like they were looking at the leaf blower gas leak bans and things like that. But just on that hypoxia issue and some of the fertilizers and everything going into the wetlands and water course, I don't know if there's anything in zoning that would help just deal with some of the impact that we have from the runoff of over fertilization or non-organic or pesticides, things like that.
Nothing for private property use of herbicides or pesticides. So the city does have a ordinance on pesticide use on all public lands. So it is severely curtailed on all city-owned land. But private regulation of pesticide and herbicide application on private lands is not something that we have any real enabling legislation to allow. So I know that the ordinance committee really looked into that when they were looking at the pesticide ordinance, as well as the tree ordinance as well, looking to kind of extend that to private land, and don't really have an avenue to do either. So that's the committees of the Common Council. And then the zoning commission, the regulations that came into effect December 19th, 2024 for the zoning regulations do have much more in them than the zoning regulations did previously regarding land use. The previous zoning regulations were very much building oriented, like the building, and didn't really address land use like grading, stormwater, runoff, tree removal. And the new regulations do. So there are limits to the amount of clearing that can happen on a property without triggering a zoning permit or a special permit. And for commercial properties, there are areas where commercially zoned properties, I should say, not just commercial properties, but the commercial zones. There are zones of all properties where you can't remove a tree without a permit. So it definitely has a lot more
Yeah, and the
elements,
impermeable
but
surface ratio, right? Like was,
yep, so they instead of just coverage, it is now based on the impervious coverage
Right.
amounts. Those are still relatively high, I'd say. They're not really conducive.
Yeah,
They're
right.
conducive to development of a city, an urban city, not necessarily for water quality. But it does reference the city stormwater drainage standards, though. So it makes it clear that any increase in impervious surface needs to be accounted for. So they're definitely better, but use of herbicides and pesticides are not addressed in them at all, and I don't know if they can.
Wouldn't it have to be like an ordinance or something along those
Yeah, it
lines?
would have to be an ordinance. And I
I
know
had
that
a-
the ad hoc committee on sustainability was
Mm.
looking into that to try to figure out if there was a legal way to regulate use on private properties.
I
Bit of a
had
tough
a salesman
one.
selling weed control door to door at my house tonight, and I was like, "You got the wrong, like you got the wrong house, buddy."
Yeah, that's a tough issue. As far as, local, so the state has the authority to regulate what pesticides can be sprayed within the state. And so like the neonics are being looked at more carefully by the state. But it really comes down to kind of those layers of government and who gets to regulate what.
Thank you, Alexis.
Yeah. Steve, your lips are moving, but we cannot hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm signing up for those Yukon Clear Land Use Academy basic training webinars
I did too.
right
Excellent.
now.
I missed the first one, of course. I had a meeting
Yeah.
for the first one, but
Too.
oh
They
yeah,
put
it
the
was the
link
same
in the
meeting.
Is there a chat still in here? No, there's no chat on.
No, not on a webinar because,
Okay.
but I will send you
Okay, so-
guys the link to that again.
I
And
tried to
those
jump on
are
Steve
for
right
all land
after.
use commissions, so they're excellent because it's not just you, but it's it really gives you a good understanding of like how local government and the commissions fit into it, all of that.
Just so you know, it seems to be 12 to 12:30, not 12 to 1. Just in case you planned on maybe, I don't know, jumping in halfway like I thought I could, but I got there in time for the last question to be
Yeah, they're-
asked, so.
They try to make them pretty quick. I heard her say that they try to do like a lunch hour.
Yeah, the only question I actually heard was like, is there a way to skip this requirement of attending these sessions? Was the
Oh, for
only
zoning
question.
commissioners, yes. Oops. Yeah, because so zoning commissioners have required training every few years. There is a bill in the state legislature seeking to do the same for inland wetland agency members. But so far it hasn't moved forward to enact, but I'll keep you posted. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, it's 12 to 12:30 or 12 to 1?
Well, what I was saying was after our meeting the other day, I tried to join at 12:30 and it was pretty much, it was like 12:35 when I got on, it was over.
They start at noon and then they last 30 to 40 minutes or so. So hence the 12:30 being at the end.
Yeah, right. I thought it was an hour. That's what I'm saying. So if you were planning to do that, it's definitely starts at 12 and then, yeah.
I just sent it. I resent that link. And then I can resend the Yukon, if you want more than a half an hour lunch each month, there's the wetland training program, which any of you are welcome to do. That's 8 hours though, so it's a bit longer, but it's online, do at your own pace.
Ooh,
Yeah, so I'll send the link to that right now too.
is there a cost?
Nope, it is free. And
Okay.
so Right now, your staff is required to have it, and I keep it maintained. And it is an excellent resource for wetland agencies.
I would love to.
All right, I don't need to make you all wait around for me to finish doing this. Does anyone want to make a motion?
What do you,
to
I'll make
wait-
a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn?
Second,
Any
I'm sorry.
discussion?
Oh, God.
We don't have to, I mean, we can keep the Zoom going, but there's no reason to keep the.
No,
meeting.
no, no. End
Fine.
it. Yeah, that's fine.
A motion to adjourn is, there's
On
no
the floor.
discussion on it. It's an up or down vote.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah.
All right.